Welcome to 2.8 percents. I'd like you to start off by copying down the target. I can solve problems involving percents. Hit pause now and do that. All right, well, we are going to be talking about percents, decimals, and fractions all in one. All right, so let's first start off. The definition of a percent, it's actually a ratio that compares a number to 100, okay? And always 100. When we think about percents and where we see them during our real life, we get percents on a test, right? You got a 90% on the test. You get 90% out of 100%, which means you did very well. All right, so that's a place we see them all the time in school. If we take a look at turning a decimal or fraction into a percent, here's our first skill we're going to work with. I'd like you to hit pause and copy down the 2 steps. The first one is turn fractions into decimals, which is where we divide the numerator by the denominator, okay? Or the top number divided by the bottom. And the second step is multiply the decimal by 100 or move the decimal point right 2 places. Please hit pause and copy that. All right, so let's practice with that. Our first example is 0.27. So we're going to turn each decimal or fraction into a percent. So 0.27, we already have a decimal. Let's go ahead and turn that to a percent. We could do it 2 ways. We can multiply it by 100. And if you do that in the calculator, you should get 27. And remember, that is 27%. The other way we could do it, we can rewrite 0.27 down here, is we can move that decimal point, right? This decimal point right 2 places. Swing it 1, swing it 2. Now it's right there, which is 27%. Number 2, we have a fraction. So we first need to take the fraction to a decimal and then a percent. So take the top number divided by the bottom, so our numerator divided by the denominator, and in your calculator, you get 0.08. Be very careful where that decimal point is. Now we're back to the next step we worked with last time. We either multiply it by 100 or we swing the decimal place to places to the right. So 1, 2, I now have 8%. Or if you did 0.08 times 100, you still get 8%. You must make sure you have the percent label. 8 is different than 8%. All right, that's turning a decimal or fraction into a percent. Let's turn a percent into a decimal or fraction. So let's go backwards. I'd like you to read through this and then hit pause and copy. Because a percent is out of 100, place the number over 100 and simplify if you can. All right, hit pause, copy that, and let's work with some examples. All right, number 1, we're going to turn each percent into a fraction. Okay, so number 1, remember, our rules say because a percent is out of 100, place the number over 100. So 23% can be written as 23 over 100. And we think, well, can we, when we turn it into a fraction, we could, I also would like you to write and decimal. I forgot to have you do that. Okay, so write fraction and decimal. All right, so let's go back to number 1. We turn 23 over 100 into a fraction. If we try to divide that, we cannot because 23 is indeed a prime number, okay? So let's go ahead and let's now turn this into a decimal. I will take 23 and then divide it by 100. Those are your key strikes. And you should get 0.23. So there's your fraction and your decimal. Let's take a look at number 2, 0.5%. Ooh, 0.5%. Well, we know that half can really be 0.5%. That is a tiny number. So let's put this over 100. So 0.5 divided by 100 is really 0.005. We call that 5 thousandths. Tiny number. And last but not least, 1.5. All right, so 1.5%. Let's put that over 100. And then let's go ahead and turn it to a decimal by dividing that 0.015. Or we can read it as 15 thousandths. Again, numbers 2 and 3 were tiny percents. Now let's work with the percent equation, all right? So we're going to write equations using percents, and there are some key words. The first key word is means equal, okay? So when we say is, we hear is, that is an equal symbol. Of indicates multiplication. Okay? And we'll use the point. We don't want to use x, okay, because x will have a variable meaning. All right, so of means multiplication. And then we have what or find, which represents the missing variable. So take a minute, hit pause, and copy those 3 bullet points down. All right, now we're going to work with some examples. The directions say write an equation for each question and solve. And I want you to add in always turn percent into decimal. All right, let's work with the first example. Find 50% of 98. Well, find is going to be our missing variable. Remember, find right up here. Find is going to be, actually I'll do this. Find is going to be our x. 50% of 98. So 50%, we need to turn that to a decimal. So let's do 50 divided by 100. And we should have 0.5 or 0.50. Either mean the same thing. So I have to find 50% of is multiplication, 98. Now notice I don't have the word is. But if I'm asking to find, it's assumed that find would be the answer. Find 50% of 98. This is simply a plug and chug, excuse me. Let's just plug this in the calculator and chug out an answer. Hopefully you did that and you got 49. So we can also reword this as what is 50% of 98? 50% of 98 is 49. All right, let's take a look at number 2. What percent of 40 is 10? So we have some keywords there. Is means equal. Of, multiplication. Okay, 40. Okay, see how I'm just plugging these numbers into my percent equation is 10. So what is going to be my x? What percent? So first off, I'm going to write x. X times 40 is 10. But I'm asked for the percent, which we need to keep in mind when we give a final answer. So let's go ahead and let's solve this percent equation. I have x here. I need to isolate it. X is being multiplied by 40. The way I can undo that is divide by 40. Whatever I do to the left side, I must do to the right. So x is equal to 0.25. Okay? Now that is not my percent. What I need to do is now turn that to a percent, which we multiply it by 100. Or we can swing the decimal place 2 to the right. Either way, if I do 0.25 times 100, that equals 25%. If I swing my decimal place 2 to the right, that equals 25%. So we have to make sure that we answer the question. The question is asking for a percent. I must make sure I have a percent as an answer. All right, I'd like you to go ahead, hit pause, and let's try 3, 4, and 5, and we'll check the answers quickly, and you can compare your work after you hit pause. All right, we should have 18 is 40, but we have to turn it to a decimal of what number? We divide both sides by 0.40, and I get that x is equal to 45. If you were able to sneak it in there, great. There's your answer, 45. 9 is what percent of 45? So I need to turn this into a percentage. There's your percent equation. We divide both sides by 45. Ran out of room, so I'm going to move over here. I have 0.2. I'm going to multiply it by 100 and get, 20%. There's your final answer. And then last but not least, 2.5%, which I need to turn into a decimal. So 0.025 of x is 15. Divide both sides, and I should get 600. Now, let's take a look at how we can apply it. Okay, this is our first practice with application. Section 2.9, we will work more with applying percents in real life. Number 6 says, in a 48-ounce bottle of Sunny D, Procter & Gamble advertises that it contains 5% orange juice. How many ounces of actual orange juice are in the bottle of Sunny D? Well, if I think about that, the bottle contains 5% of juice. So what is 5% of 48? Okay? So if I think, what is 5% of 48? All right, so what is 5%? If I divide that by 100, 0.05 of 48. And so when I calculate that, that's just a plug and chug. I should get 0.05 times 48. Oops, I'm getting an error. 0.05 times 48 is 2.4. So only 2.4 ounces of that bottle of Sunny D is actual orange juice. All right, thanks for watching. I hope this sets you up for in-class practice and homework.